Welcome back to your hour. I'm here now with Paul Rosales from RE/MAX Realty Professionals, and are we continuing on our series of how to get your house ready to sell?
Yeah. We've touched on getting the interior ready, getting the exterior ready. We touched a little on pricing also. I can't reinforce enough how important pricing is. Again, in the market that we're in now, people are not going to overpay for a house like they were maybe 4 years ago. They're not going to overpay it. Plus, the appraisers are very worried about the government coming in and regulating their industry. So they're self-regulating. They're being very conservative right now on appraisals. You may have your house at $210,000, but if it's only worth $190,000, that's what the appraiser is going to see on there. That's what they're going to put on there. So if you accept a contract for $210,000, but it only appraises at $190,000, you've got a surprise that you'd already agreed to a contract. And I mentioned this before, but especially if it's a government guaranteed loan like an FHA or a VA or something of that nature, that appraisal is going to stick to that house for 6 months. And anybody who's going to come in later on, any appraiser who's going to come in later on, they'll open up the system that they use, they'll see that appraisal there. And they're going to know $190,000. They're going to probably look at the comps briefly, and if they can't justify the $210,000, they're not going to bump up the price on it. They're probably going to go with what their colleagues said. Because most appraisers are competent. There's a few out there that don't know what they're doing. There's some out there who are, most of them are very, very good at what they do. So it's important, again, I'm going to reinforce it, price your house according to what the market will bear.
Well, too, the bank won't loan you more than what the house appraises for.
Exactly. The bank is, because the bank, when they get your loan, they're going to sell your loan, and they've got investors as well that they have to satisfy. They're not. It'd be like if everybody else is buying a stock for $50 a share. Nobody out there is going to pay 60. Why would you pay 60 for it? It's the same thing with anything that's market driven. The price of the house is going to be the price of the house according to the market. And that's all there is to it. It doesn't matter how much you love your house. It doesn't matter how special you think your house is. If it's not above and beyond every other house in the area, and if it doesn't warrant the higher price, it's not going to appraise at the higher price. And you may think the guy next door has an identical home to you and it's sold for how much? Really, the appraiser is going to look at every single detail on that house, and it may be a difference of $15,000, could be the difference in a sprinkler system. You may not have one, he might. That might be the only difference in the house. But sprinkler systems, you know, they cost a lot of money to put in.
Right. Well, and a lot of effort, too.
Yeah, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, and that could be the difference. So you can say, well, the only difference is a sprinkler. That's a huge difference on an appraisal. You know, he may have one extra bedroom or one extra bathroom. That's thousands of dollars of differences in the house. So again, pricing is very important. The other thing is, once we have the house listed, you've put all the effort into getting it ready. Make sure that the house is again kept in a very clean, very pristine, ready to show state. Because a lot of times you'll have a last-second showing show up. Maybe they're in the neighborhood, and I've mentioned this before, but it's important. You know, don't leave everything laying around. Put it away as soon as you take it out. That's hard to do. Me with a 3-year-old, I completely understand how hard that is. Once we accept the contract on the house, we have a couple of phases that we go through. We go through the inspection phase. They're going to get the house inspected most likely. And that's going to be within the first week if it's one of my listings. I don't let my listings linger without getting my contracts on a listing linger without getting a contract. We don't want to be in a contract for 2 weeks only to have the inspection come back with something we can't overcome. They'll come back, and at that point they have a chance to negotiate with you again, and they're going to either negotiate for repairs or a drop in price in lieu of repairs, so we have to be ready for that. The appraiser is going to come in. That's going to be within the first 2 weeks. And then after that, you've got about 2 weeks, depending on your loan, you've got about 2 weeks where not a whole lot's going to happen. You're going to be getting the last of your stuff out of the house, because about 30 days is what it takes to close on a house. And again, no contract is final, no sale is final until you're at the closing table and you're signing off on the paperwork. When the ink's dry, that's when we're done with the sale of the house. In the meantime, you're obligated to keep it in the same condition as when you accepted the contract. You can't go through and pull things out of the house that you want, unless you've written
fixtures and things.
Right. It's like we both know Rick. The house next door to him was under contract. She had put in a new air conditioner the year before, accepted a contract, and between the time that she accepted the contract and the time it was supposed to close, she pulled out the new air conditioner. Yeah, pulled out a lot of the ductwork and stuff that she had invested in it and decided to put it in the new house she was getting. You can't do that. The house that you contract in has to be the same house that...
Well, that's fraud.
Yeah, yeah, it destroyed that contract. If I understand correctly, she still owns that house.
Yeah, and it's still empty.
It's still empty. Yeah, yeah. So you've got to keep it up. You can't go through and decide I'm not going to keep up the carpets, let my kids pour cherry Kool-Aid on them. That's an issue. I can't let the kids throw spaghetti on the wall and not care about it. You got to give it to them the same way that you contracted. So that's very important. If anybody ever has any questions about the entire listing process, they can always call me. I think my number's on the screen. If not, it's 554-2812. Give me a call. We'll talk a little more in depth about how to get your house ready, what you need to do during the listing period to get the house sold.
Well, and these are things that most people don't sell their house that often, so these are things that they probably could use a little advice and a little help getting done.
They might only do it once a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yep.
And we'll be back with